The ultimatum. The Galactic Assembly was not accustomed to waiting. For 10,000 cycles, the Grand Chamber had hosted the most powerful civilizations in the known universe, beings who commanded forces that could reshape planets and harness the energy of stars. The 15 primary members of the Assembly's High Council represented species that had mastered faster-than-light travel, while humans were still figuring out how to make fire. Today they waited. The vast chamber, with its arching crystalline dome that displayed the real-time movements of every major stellar body in the galaxy, fell silent as the doors finally parted. A single human figure strode in, flanked by 2 guards that seemed more ceremonial than necessary. Commander Ellis Reeves wore the midnight blue uniform of the Earth Fleet with a quiet dignity that belied humanity's status as galactic newcomers. "You have kept the Assembly waiting," Commander said First Speaker Zellion, his translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns of disapproval. The Enteri were among the oldest species in the galaxy, their civilization already ancient when the dinosaurs still roamed Earth. "My apologies," Reeves replied, voice steady and unapologetic. "The notice we received gave us little time to prepare, and Earth is still 16 light years from this station, even with our fastest ships." The subtle emphasis on "our ships" was not lost on the Assembly. Humanity's rapid development of propulsion technology had been one of many concerning developments that had prompted this very meeting. "We understand that humans value efficiency," said Morathy, the Serpentine representative of the Sylph Dominion, "which is why we will be direct. Humanity's expansion has become problematic." Reeves stood at the center of the chamber, hands clasped behind her back. At 47 Earth years, she had spent most of her adult life in space, witnessing humanity's accelerating trajectory among the stars. She had been there when the first colony ships reached Proxima Centauri, when the mining operations on Titan revolutionized Earth's economy, when the breakthrough in quantum displacement engines shocked the galactic community. The Assembly has observed 17 new human outposts established in the past standard cycle, continued Morathy, scales rippling with barely contained agitation. "Your military vessels now patrol systems well beyond your recognized territories. The pace of your technological advancement exceeds all predictive models. Is progress a crime now?" Reeves asked, her voice echoing in the chamber. "Progress without oversight invites chaos," rumbled Dronex, the massive silicon-based life form representing the collective of harmonious worlds. "Humanity has rejected 6 formal invitations to submit to Assembly technological evaluation protocols." Reeves smiled slightly. "We've been transparent about our civilian developments. Our military capabilities, like those of every member species, remain our own business." First Speaker Zellion rose from his chair, his 12-foot frame towering over the human representative. "This brings us to the purpose of today's Assembly. The Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding Earth and its colonies." A hologram materialized in the center of the room, displaying Earth's solar system and the 37 human outposts that now dotted nearby star systems. "Effective immediately, humanity will halt all military ship construction. Your existing vessels will be retrofitted with Assembly monitoring systems. All expansion beyond your current boundaries will cease. A delegation of Assembly observers will establish permanent residence on Earth and each major colony to ensure compliance." The chamber fell silent again, but this time with the heavy anticipation that preceded conflict. Commander Reeves studied the hologram dispassionately, her expression revealing nothing. "And if we refuse?" she finally asked. "This is not a negotiation, Commander," said Morathy. "This is an ultimatum. The Assembly has the combined might of 1,000 worlds at its disposal. Your species has achieved remarkable things in a short time, but you remain insignificant in the greater scheme." Reeves nodded slowly, as if considering a minor logistical problem rather than a threat to human sovereignty. She tapped a small device on her wrist. "I'd like to confer with my government before responding." "There is nothing to." Dronax began, but was interrupted by First Speaker Zellion's raised hand. You may have 1 hour, Commander. The Assembly's decision is final, but we will grant you the courtesy of consulting with your leaders. Reeves bowed slightly. Thank you. Though I won't need an hour. She tapped her communication device again. Alpha Protocol, Authorization, Reeves 7 Delta 9. Execute. The vast holographic display above them flickered momentarily. Then, to the shock of the Assembly, it began showing new information. Hundreds of signals suddenly appearing throughout the galaxy, blinking into existence like stars at dusk. What is the meaning of this? Demanded Zellion, his bioluminescence now pulsing with alarm patterns. Reeves' smile widened slightly. Those are human ships, First Speaker. Each marker represents a vessel that just deactivated its cloaking protocols on my command. The Assembly erupted in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species began shouting questions, demands, and threats. The High Council members exchanged glances of disbelief and growing concern. Impossible, whispered Morathy. Our detection systems would have. Your detection systems were designed to find what you already understand, said Reeves calmly. Humanity has been developing in ways you haven't bothered to consider. The display zoomed in on one particular section of space, the area surrounding the very station that housed the Assembly. 7 large signals pulsed there, unnervingly close. This is an act of aggression, thundered Dronex. You have concealed military assets and positioned them near sovereign Assembly space. Reeves shook her head. No aggression intended. Simply a demonstration. Had we wished to be aggressive, we wouldn't be having this conversation. She gestured to the display again, which now showed one of the human vessels in detail. Its design was unlike anything the Assembly had seen before. Sleek, asymmetrical, with an organic quality that seemed almost alive. The Artemis-class destroyer, Reeves explained. Developed in our deep space facilities over the past decade. Powered by what we call singularity cores, harnessing microscopic artificial black holes. Nearly unlimited energy, complete stealth capabilities, and weapons systems that, well, we hope we'll never need to use them. First Speaker Zellion sank back into his chair, his luminescence dimming to a dull glow. How many? He asked quietly. 817 vessels currently in service, Reeves replied. With another 300 under construction. But what's more interesting isn't their number, but where they've been. The hologram shifted again, now displaying a complex map of exploration routes that extended far beyond what the Assembly had believed was human territory. We've mapped systems you've never reached. We've encountered species you don't know exist. We've been preparing, First Speaker, not for conflict with the Assembly, but for something else entirely. What could possibly justify this level of military buildup? Asked Morathy, their voice now more curious than confrontational. Reeves looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, sensory organs, and perception clusters of each council member in turn. That's a longer conversation, and one we're prepared to have. But first, I need to address your ultimatum. She straightened her uniform and continued with formal precision. Earth respectfully declines the Assembly's terms. We will not halt our ship construction. We will not cease our expansion. And we will certainly not accept observers monitoring our activities. You cannot simply, began Dronex, but Reeves raised her hand, mimicking Zellion's earlier gesture. However, we propose an alternative. Earth will share certain technological developments with the Assembly. We will coordinate our expansion efforts to avoid territorial disputes. And most importantly, we will brief the High Council on what we've discovered in the uncharted regions beyond your mapped space, information that may be vital to the survival of all our species. The chamber fell silent once more, but the quality of the silence had changed. What had begun as condescension had transformed into wary respect, perhaps even fear. First Speaker Zellion finally spoke, his voice unnaturally subdued. You come before this Assembly, an institution that has maintained galactic peace for millennia, and dictate terms. Reeves shook her head. Not dictating. Proposing. There's a difference, First Speaker. Humanity doesn't want to rule or dominate. We simply refuse to be ruled or dominated. She gestured again to the display, and the image shifted to show one of the human ships performing a maneuver that defied conventional physics, seeming to fold space around itself as it moved. What you're seeing is what we call a dimensional slip. Our ships don't just travel through space. They can briefly step outside normal spacetime. It makes them effectively untargetable during combat. Murmurs of astonishment rippled through the chamber. Such technology was theoretical at best, even among the most advanced assembly species. "We could have kept this hidden," continued Reeves. "We could have built our fleet in secret until we were ready to challenge the assembly directly. Instead, we're here, showing you what we're capable of, and asking for partnership rather than submission." First Speaker Zellion conferred quietly with the other council members, their private communication channels buzzing with urgent exchanges. After several tense minutes, he addressed Reeves again. "The assembly requires time to reconsider its position. We will adjourn for 24 standard hours. During this time, we expect those ships near this station to withdraw to a respectful distance." Reeves nodded. "They already have orders to pull back. But understand this, First Speaker, they won't go far. Humanity came to the stars hoping for cooperation. We prepared for conflict. We won't be intimidated, not even by the combined might of the assembly." As Commander Reeves turned to leave the chamber, Morathi called out one final question. "What did you find out there, Commander? What could possibly make humans so fearless?" Reeves paused at the doorway, looking back over her shoulder. "Something ancient, something that's been waiting. And when the assembly is ready to listen, we'll tell you everything." The doors closed behind her, leaving the most powerful beings in the galaxy to contemplate how thoroughly they had underestimated the newest species in their midst. Outside, in the privacy of a secure corridor, Commander Ellis Reeves leaned against a wall and released a shaky breath. "They blinked," she whispered to herself. "Thank God they blinked." Because despite her confident performance, despite the impressive display of human ships, despite everything she had revealed to the assembly, she had kept the most terrifying truth hidden. Humanity wasn't building its fleet to challenge the assembly. They were building it because something was coming, something that had extinguished civilizations before and would soon reach their galaxy once more. The real fight hadn't even begun. Reversal of fortune. 23 hours later, Commander Ellis Reeves stood on the observation deck of the Earth vessel Defiance, watching the distant assembly station rotate slowly against the backdrop of stars. The massive structure, nearly the size of Earth's moon, represented the pinnacle of cooperative engineering among the galaxy's eldest civilizations. It was meant to inspire awe, to remind visitors of their insignificance in the grand scheme of things. Today, it just looked vulnerable. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command," announced Lieutenant Keto, her voice breaking the contemplative silence. Reeves nodded. "Put it through." The holographic image of Admiral Helena Chen materialized beside her, the older woman's stern features softened slightly by what might have been pride. "Quite the show you put on, Commander," said Chen. "The diplomatic corps is having fits, but the Security Council is impressed." "How did the assembly react?" "About as expected," Reeves replied. "Shock, disbelief, then careful recalculation. They've been the unchallenged power in this region for so long that they've forgotten what it's like to be surprised. And you're certain they don't suspect our true motives?" Reeves shook her head. "They're suspicious, certainly, but they interpreted our fleet as a challenge to their authority, not as preparation for something else." Chen's expression darkened. "The latest data from the Orc cloud observatories confirms it. The disruption patterns are intensifying. Whatever's coming, it's accelerating." "How long?" 3 years, maybe 4. The xenorteology team decoded more of the progenitor warning beacons. "It's worse than we thought." Reeves closed her eyes briefly. When humans had discovered the ancient beacons buried beneath the surface of Mars, they'd initially celebrated finding proof of previous intelligent life in their solar system. That celebration had turned to dread when they'd finally deciphered the warnings left behind by a species that called themselves the progenitors, warnings about something they called the harvesters. "We need the assembly," Reeves said quietly. "We need their resources, their combined knowledge. Humanity can't face this alone." "Then make them listen," said Chen. "Whatever it takes. Authorization Omega Black is in effect as of now." Reeves straightened, surprised. The Security Council approved full disclosure. Unanimous vote. "Good luck, Commander. Earth out." As the hologram faded, Lieutenant Cato approached with another update. "Commander, we're receiving a priority message from the Assembly. They're requesting your presence for an emergency session of the High Council." "Time to see if they're ready to talk as equals," murmured Reeves. The Assembly chamber had changed in subtle but significant ways when Reeves returned. The grand displays that typically showed the majesty of the galaxy now focused solely on the positions of human vessels. The seating arrangement had been altered. Where previously Reeves had stood at the center like a supplicant, now a proper seat awaited her, positioned as an equal to the 15 High Council members. First Speaker Zellian acknowledged her with a formal bow as she entered. "Commander Reeves, the Assembly appreciates your prompt return." "I'm here to listen, First Speaker," she replied, taking her seat. "The High Council has spent the past day in vigorous debate," began Zellian. "Your revelation has forced us to reconsider many assumptions about humanity's place in the galactic community." Morathi, the Selth representative, leaned forward. "To be direct, Commander, we find ourselves curious about how a species barely 2 centuries into space travel has managed technological advancements that eluded civilizations with millennia of interstellar experience." Reeves detected the underlying question. "You think we stole it?" she stated flatly. "The thought has occurred to many," admitted Dronex. "There are forbidden zones throughout the galaxy, places where ancient technologies remain quarantined for the safety of all. The Assembly monitors these zones closely, but not closely enough." Reeves finished for him. "I assure you, what we've developed is our own, though perhaps not entirely of our own inspiration." She removed a small device from her pocket and placed it on the table before her. It projected a hologram of what appeared to be an artifact, a metallic obelisk covered in intricate engravings. This was discovered beneath the surface of Mars in Earth year 2127. It was the first of 17 similar artifacts we've since found throughout our solar system. The council members leaned forward, their interest palpable. "Progenitor technology," whispered Sental, the archivist of the Assembly, speaking for the first time. The ancient being's crystalline form shimmered with excitement. "You found progenitor artifacts in your home system." Reeves nodded. "We did, and we decoded them." A hushed silence fell over the chamber. The progenitors were more legend than history, a species believed to have seeded the galaxy with life billions of years ago before mysteriously vanishing. "Impossible," said Sental. "The Assembly has studied progenitor artifacts for thousands of years. Their language remains largely undecipherable." "Perhaps," Reeves suggested carefully, "the progenitors wanted humans to understand." She expanded the hologram to show the patterns etched into the obelisk's surface. "Our linguists realized these weren't just decorative. They're mathematical sequences, complex, but recognizable to any species that developed calculus. Once we had that key, the rest followed." First Speaker Zellian's bioluminescence pulsed with patterns that suggested deep concern. "And what did these artifacts tell you, Commander?" Reeves took a deep breath. This was the moment Admiral Chen had authorized. Full disclosure of what humanity had been preparing for. "They told us that the progenitors didn't vanish. They were exterminated, and the force that destroyed them returns to this galaxy approximately every 50,000 years to do the same to whatever advanced civilizations have arisen." She activated another projection, this one showing astronomical data, gravitational anomalies, radiation patterns from the edge of the galaxy. "We call them the harvesters. According to the progenitor records, they're a synthetic species that believes advanced organic life, must be periodically reset. They'd been performing this culling for millions of years, and they're coming back. Soon. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, questions, and expressions of disbelief. Reeves waited patiently for order to return, watching as the High Council members conferred urgently among themselves. Finally, First Speaker Zellian raised his hands for silence. "These are extraordinary claims, Commander. What evidence can you provide beyond these alleged translations?" "The evidence is already in your archives, First Speaker. The mysterious extinction events that pepper galactic history, the inexplicable absence of certain types of signals from distant galaxies, the dead zones where developed worlds were found devoid of life, but showing signs of advanced civilization." She stood and walked to the center of the chamber, activating another holographic display. This one showing a massive object moving through deep space, barely visible even with enhanced imaging. "This was captured by our Deep Space Observatory in the Kuiper Belt 3 months ago. It's approximately 30 kilometers in length and emitting energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. It's also accelerating toward the galaxy." Xental floated closer to the image, their crystalline form vibrating with what might have been fear. "If what you say is true, why would the progenitors warn humans specifically? Why not leave these messages where the Assembly could find them?" "They did," said Reeves quietly. "According to the Mars obelisk, they left warnings throughout the galaxy. But they also predicted that older civilizations would become complacent, too set in their understanding of the universe to recognize a threat that operated outside their experience." She looked directly at First Speaker Zellian. "The progenitors gambled on younger species, those hungry enough for knowledge and survival to prepare for a threat they'd never seen. That's why humanity built its fleet in secret. That's why we developed technologies that seemed impossible. We've been preparing for war since the moment we understood the warnings." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The implications were staggering, not just the threat itself, but what it meant for the Assembly's understanding of their place in the universe. "If this is true," said Morethi slowly, "then the Assembly owes humanity an apology, and our gratitude." "We don't want gratitude," replied Reeves. "We want allies. According to the progenitor records, the last Harvester incursion wiped out 48 spacefaring civilizations. Only those who hadn't yet achieved interstellar travel were spared, considered too primitive to be worth harvesting." She paused, letting the magnitude of the threat sink in. "Humanity has been preparing, but we can't face this alone. No single species can. That's why I'm here, not to challenge the Assembly, but to warn it, to ask for your help." First Speaker Zellian rose from his seat, his massive form casting a shadow across the chamber floor. For a moment, Reeves feared she had overplayed her hand. That pride would overcome reason, and the Assembly would reject humanity's warning. Instead, Zellian extended a multi-jointed limb toward her in what she recognized as a formal gesture of alliance. "Commander Reeves, the Assembly hereby rescinds its ultimatum. In its place, we propose a joint defense initiative, with humanity's fleet serving as the vanguard of a united galactic response." Reeves accepted the gesture with a formal bow. "Earth accepts, First Speaker." "There will be those who doubt," warned Dronex. "Many in the Assembly will require more proof." "Then we'll provide it," said Reeves. "Open access to our progenitor archives, joint scientific missions to verify our findings. We have nothing to hide anymore." Xental moved forward, their crystalline form now glowing with renewed purpose. "I would like to immediately begin coordination with your xenorteology teams, Commander. If the progenitors left warnings throughout the galaxy as you suggest, we must find them all." "Agreed," said Reeves, "and we should begin sharing military technology. Your species have capabilities we lack, just as we've developed techniques unknown to you." First Speaker Zellian activated the main chamber display, showing the galaxy in its entirety. The swirling arms of stars, nebulae, and countless worlds that were home to trillions of sentient beings. "For 10,000 cycles, the Assembly has maintained peace through control," he said, his voice resonating through the chamber. Perhaps we grew too comfortable in our power, too certain of our superiority. It took humanity, barely more than children by our standards, to remind us of our true purpose, not to rule the galaxy, but to protect it. He turned to Reeves, his bioluminescence now pulsing with patterns she recognized as respect. The Assembly formally acknowledges Earth and its colonies as full and equal members, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. Furthermore, we nominate Commander Ellis Reeves to lead the newly formed Joint Defense Initiative, effective immediately. Reeves hadn't expected this, had never sought command of anything beyond her own vessel, but she understood the symbolic importance of the gesture. I accept the nomination, First Speaker, pending approval from my government. But I suggest we waste no time. According to our calculations, we have less than 4 years before the first Harvester Scouts reach assembly space. Then we have work to do, said Zellion. As the session adjourned, Morathi approached Reeves privately. You played a dangerous game, Commander. Had you misjudged us, this could have ended very differently. Reeves nodded. It was a calculated risk, but we studied the Assembly's history before revealing ourselves. For all your rigid protocols and hierarchy, when truly threatened, your species have always chosen survival over pride. And humans? Asked Morathi curiously. What do your species choose when threatened? Reeves smiled, though there was little humor in it. We choose to fight. Always. It's both our greatest flaw and our saving grace. She looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's transparent dome, knowing that somewhere out there, an ancient enemy was approaching, an enemy that had successfully exterminated countless civilizations before. The progenitors were right to bet on humanity, she said quietly. We're too stubborn to accept extinction, too creative to be outsmarted. And now, thanks to today, we won't have to stand alone. Morathi made a sound that Reeves' translator interpreted as thoughtful agreement. Perhaps that is why they chose you. The Assembly has maintained peace for millennia, but we have forgotten how to wage war. Humans, it seems, never forget. No, said Reeves, thinking of the thousands of years of human history filled with conflict and bloodshed, the very history that had prepared them for this moment. We never do. As she left the chamber to transmit the news to Earth, Reeves felt the weight of what had just transpired. Humanity had come to the Assembly as supplicants, been treated as threats, and emerged as leaders, all in the span of a single day. The galaxy was about to face its greatest test, a threat that had successfully wiped out civilizations far more advanced than any now living. But for the first time, in perhaps 50,000 years, the cycle of extinction might be broken. Because this time, the harvesters wouldn't be facing isolated, unprepared worlds. They would be facing a united galaxy. And leading that unity would be the species the progenitors had chosen, the upstarts who had dared to laugh in the face of the mighty Assembly, humans. As her ship prepared to depart from the Assembly station, Reeves watched the massive structure shrink in the viewport. What had once seemed an imposing symbol of alien authority now represented something else entirely. Hope. And behind that hope lay the grim determination that had carried humanity from its first faltering steps into space to this pivotal moment. The harvesters were coming, but so were the humans, and they were bringing the entire galaxy with them.